The telegram fluttered in Willow Langley's trembling hands as the stagecoach rattled along the dusty road toward Aurora, Colorado. The year was 1883, and the message that had brought her west contained three things: a proposal of marriage from a man she'd exchanged letters with for a year but never met, directions to his ranch outside Aurora, and a promise that sounded too good to be true, a fresh start far from the crushing burdens of her past. As the coach bounced over another rut, Willow glanced at her fellow travelers, a preacher dozing in the corner, a traveling salesman with a case of patent medicines, and an elderly woman who had been watching her with curious eyes. "First time out west, dear?" the woman asked. Willow nodded, tucking a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear. "Yes, madam. Meeting someone special." Willow's fingers tightened around the telegram. "My fiancé. We've never actually met in person." The woman's eyebrows rose, but her smile remained kind. "Mail-order bride?" "Not exactly," Willow replied. "We've been corresponding for a year. After my father passed, Mr. Vaughn and I, well, our letters became more personal." What Willow didn't mention was how her father's passing had left her with debts she could never hope to repay on a seamstress's wages in Boston, debts she hadn't disclosed to Adam Vaughn in their correspondence. The thought of her deception made her stomach twist with guilt, but what choice did she have? After the creditors had taken their family home, marriage to a cattle rancher out west had seemed like her only path forward. The stagecoach slowed, and Willow peered through the dust-streaked window. Aurora was smaller than she'd imagined, a single main street lined with wooden buildings, a general store, a saloon, and what appeared to be a small church at the far end. But it wasn't the town that caught her eye. It was the man standing beside a wagon at the stagecoach stop. He stood tall and straight, dark hat pulled low over his brow, shoulders broad beneath a worn leather vest. When the coach came to a halt, he stepped forward, and Willow felt her heart quicken. "That's him, isn't it?" the elderly woman whispered, following Willow's gaze. "I believe so," Willow replied, suddenly aware of the wrinkles in her traveling dress and the dust that surely coated her face. As the driver opened the door, Willow gathered her courage along with her small carpetbag. The man removed his hat as she stepped down, revealing dark hair with a slight wave and eyes the color of a summer sky. "Miss Langley." His voice was deeper than she'd imagined when reading his letters. "Mr. Vaughn," she replied, feeling suddenly shy. A smile broke across his face, transforming his weathered features. "Adam, please, welcome to Aurora." He extended his hand, and when she placed hers in it, he didn't shake it but rather held it gently between both of his own. "I'd about convinced myself you might not come." "I gave my word," Willow said, trying to ignore the fluttering in her chest. Adam Vaughn was not what she had expected. His letters had revealed an educated man with a poetic streak, but they hadn't prepared her for the physical presence of him, tall and sun-bronzed, with calloused hands that spoke of hard work yet handled her with surprising gentleness. "Let me take your bag," he said, reaching for her carpetbag. "Is this all you've brought?" Willow nodded, embarrassed by how little she possessed. "I travel light." If Adam was disappointed, he didn't show it. "The ranch is about an hour's ride from town. I thought you might like to rest a bit first, maybe have some lunch at the hotel dining room." "That would be lovely," Willow said, grateful for his thoughtfulness. As they walked toward the hotel, Willow was acutely aware of the curious glances from townspeople. Aurora might be small, but news traveled fast, and clearly Adam Vaughn bringing a woman to town was worthy of attention. "Don't mind them," Adam said quietly. "Fresh faces are a novelty here." The hotel dining room was simple but clean, with checkered tablecloths and vases of wildflowers on each table, After ordering, they sat in awkward silence until Adam cleared his throat. "Your letters. They meant a great deal to me, Willow." She felt her cheeks warm. "As did yours to me. I want you to know," he continued, "that while I hope you'll agree to become my wife as planned, I understand if you need time. Seeing a place and a person in the flesh is different than imagining them." Willow looked into his earnest blue eyes and felt a wave of shame. This good man had been nothing but honest with her, while she carried a secret that grew heavier by the minute. "You're very kind," she managed. "Not kind, just—" He paused, searching for words. "I've been alone a long while. When my brother died and left me the ranch, I thought that would be enough. But a man needs more than land and cattle to make a life worth living." Their food arrived, hearty beef stew and freshly baked bread, giving Willow a moment to collect herself. As they ate, Adam told her about the ranch, about the house he'd been expanding in anticipation of her arrival, about the small garden he'd started because she'd mentioned in her letters how she loved fresh vegetables. With each detail, Willow's guilt intensified. This man had built dreams around her words, while she had withheld the truth of her circumstances. After lunch, they walked to the wagon where Adam had left it hitched outside the general store. He helped her up onto the seat with care that bordered on reverence. As they left Aurora behind, the landscape opened up around them, rolling grasslands punctuated by stands of pine and aspen, with mountains rising in the distance. The late summer sun beat down, but a gentle breeze made the heat bearable. "It's beautiful," Willow said, genuinely awed by the vastness of it. "Different from Boston, I imagine," Adam replied. "Very, but in a wonderful way." She took a deep breath of the clean mountain air. "It feels free." Adam gave her a sidelong glance. "That's why I came west. Freedom to build something of my own." They talked easily as the wagon rolled along, the conversation flowing more naturally than Willow had dared hope. Adam spoke of his childhood in Pennsylvania, of following his older brother west after the war, of the hard early years learning to ranch in this unforgiving land. Willow shared stories of her own childhood in Boston, her work as a seamstress, the books she loved. But she carefully steered around any mention of her father's death or the financial ruin that had followed. When the wagon crested a small rise, Adam pulled the horses to a halt. "There it is, Aspen Ridge Ranch." Below them stretched a verdant valley, bisected by a stream that gleamed silver in the sunlight. Near the center stood a two-story house with a broad front porch, surrounded by several outbuildings. A corral held horses, and in the distance, cattle grazed on the lush grass. "You built this?" Willow asked, impressed by the neat, prosperous appearance of the ranch. "My brother started it. I've added to it over the years." Adam's pride was evident in his voice. "The house has 5 bedrooms, I thought. Well, I hoped we might fill them someday." Willow felt her cheeks grow warm again. The implication was clear: he wanted children with her. As they approached the house, a man emerged from one of the outbuildings. Adam raised a hand in greeting. "That's Jose Mendoza, my foreman," he explained. "Been with me since the beginning. His wife, Elena, comes up from their place to help with cooking when I need it. I asked her to prepare a special dinner tonight to welcome you." The foreman tipped his hat to Willow as the wagon passed. "Welcome, Miss Langley," he called. "Thank you," she replied, touched by the warm reception. The house was even more impressive up close: sturdy logs and wooden siding, with a stone chimney and glass windows that must have been difficult to transport to this remote location. Adam helped her down from the wagon and carried her bag up onto the porch. "It's not fancy," he said, suddenly seeming almost shy. "But it's solid, and there's room for a woman's touch." Inside, Willow found a home that reflected both practicality and unexpected touches of beauty. The main room had a large stone fireplace, comfortable furniture, and bookshelves filled with volumes that spoke of Adam's literary interests. The kitchen was spacious, with a cast-iron cookstove and a large table of polished pine. "I added the second floor last year," Adam explained as he showed her upstairs. "This room here. I thought it might be yours until we're properly married." The bedroom was simple but lovely, with a bed covered in a handmade quilt, a dressing table with a mirror, and curtains at the windows that matched the bedspread. "Did you make the curtains?" Willow asked, fingering the floral fabric. "Alina did. I mentioned you liked flowers." He looked suddenly uncertain. "Is it all right? If there's anything you'd change, it's perfect," Willow assured him, moved by the care he'd taken to prepare for her arrival. "Truly perfect." "I'll leave you to rest," Adam said. "Dinner will be in a few hours. Alina is making her special chicken dish." When he'd gone, Willow sat on the edge of the bed and finally allowed herself to cry. Not tears of sadness, but of overwhelming guilt mixed with a growing affection for this man who had opened his home and heart to her. How could she tell him the truth now? That creditors in Boston were still seeking payment of her father's debts, that they might someday track her to Colorado, that she had come west not just for love, but to escape financial ruin. She unpacked her meager belongings, including a small leather folder containing her father's unpaid bills and the threatening letters from creditors. The total sum was staggering nearly $2,000, a fortune she could never hope to repay. She tucked the folder beneath the mattress, out of sight if not out of mind. After washing the travel dust from her face and changing into her one good dress, a simple blue cotton that brought out the amber flecks in her hazel eyes, Willow ventured downstairs. Adam was nowhere to be seen, but a small, dark-haired woman was busy at the stove. "You must be Alina," Willow said. "I'm Willow Langley." The woman turned with a warm smile. "Miss Langley, welcome to Aspen Ridge. Adam has talked of nothing else for weeks." Willow felt her cheeks grow warm. "Can I help with anything?" No. Tonight you are guest. Tomorrow I teach you Adam's favorites." "Yes." Alina's English was accented but clear. "He is good man. The best. Jose and we work for him 8 years now. Never a harsh word, always fair." "I'm beginning to see that," Willow replied softly. "He went to check cattle," Alina continued, stirring something that smelled deliciously of garlic and spices. "Back soon. Wants everything perfect for you." Perfect. The word stabbed at Willow's conscience. When Adam returned, freshly washed and wearing a clean shirt, his face lit up at the sight of Willow waiting in the main room. "You look beautiful," he said simply. Dinner was a delight. Alina's chicken was tender and flavorful, accompanied by vegetables from the garden Adam had mentioned and fresh baked bread. They ate at the kitchen table by lamplight, with Alina serving them before discreetly departing to her own home down the valley. Over dinner, Adam spoke of his plans for the ranch, expanding the herd, perhaps adding sheep on the higher pastures, improving the breeding stock. As he talked, Willow could see the intelligence that had attracted her in his letters, now animated by passion for his work. "I'm boring you with ranch talk," he said suddenly, looking abashed. "Not at all," Willow replied honestly. "I want to understand your work, your life." "Our life, I hope," he said quietly. "Willow, I know we agreed to wait a month before the wedding to be sure we suit. But I want you to know I'm already certain. The woman in your letters is the woman sitting across from me, thoughtful, kind, with a spirit that shines through your words and your eyes alike." Willow felt tears threatening. "Adam, you hardly know me." "I know enough," he said firmly. "But I'll wait as long as you need." Later, as she lay in bed listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the Colorado night, Willow made a decision. She would tell Adam the truth tomorrow, Whatever came after, she couldn't begin a marriage on a foundation of lies. Morning brought golden sunlight streaming through her bedroom window and the aroma of coffee wafting up from below. Dressing quickly in her work dress, Willow went downstairs to find Adam frying bacon and eggs. "Good morning," he greeted her cheerfully. "Sleep well?" "Very well, thank you." It wasn't entirely true. She'd tossed and turned, rehearsing how to tell him about the debts, but the bed had indeed been comfortable. They ate breakfast together, and Adam outlined the day ahead. "I thought I'd show you around the ranch this morning if you'd like. Then this afternoon I need to ride out to the north pasture with Jose. You'll be all right here alone for a few hours, of course," Willow assured him. "Perhaps I could bake something. I noticed you have flour and sugar." Adam's face brightened. "You bake?" "Elena tried to teach me, but I'm hopeless with pastry." "My mother taught me," Willow replied, smiling at his enthusiasm. "Her apple pie won prizes at the county fair back home." After breakfast, Adam saddled 2 horses, his own rangy chestnut gelding and a smaller, gentle mare for Willow. "Sierra's steady as they come," he assured her, helping her into the saddle. "You said in your letters you could ride." "A little," Willow admitted. "It's been some years." True to Adam's word, Sierra was patient with her novice rider, following Adam's horse without fuss as he showed Willow the expanse of his property. They rode along the stream that provided water for the ranch, past fields where hay had recently been cut and stacked for winter feed, and up to a ridge that afforded a view of the entire valley. "My brother chose well when he settled here," Adam said, surveying his domain. "Water, grass, natural shelter in those trees for the cattle in winter storms. James had an eye for land." "You must miss him," Willow observed. Adam nodded, his expression softening. "Every day. He was 10 years older, more like a father to me after our parents died. When he wrote asking me to join him out west, I didn't hesitate. We had 5 good years together before his heart gave out." "I'm sorry," Willow said softly, thinking of her own father. "Life goes on," Adam replied, straightening in the saddle. "James would be pleased to see the ranch thriving. And even more pleased to see you here." He smiled at her, his blue eyes crinkling at the corners. "He always said I needed a wife with sense and sensibility." The morning passed quickly as they explored the ranch. Adam was a patient teacher, explaining the seasonal rhythms of ranch work, pointing out landmarks, introducing her to the handful of cowhands who lived in the bunkhouse and tipped their hats respectfully to their boss's fiancé. By the time they returned to the house, Willow had made her decision. She would tell him tonight, after dinner. She would explain about her father's debts and offer to release him from their engagement if he wished. While Adam was out that afternoon, Willow baked an apple pie, finding comfort in the familiar routine. The kitchen was well stocked, better than she had expected for a bachelor's home, and she found everything she needed with little trouble. As the pie cooled on the windowsill, she retrieved the leather folder from beneath her mattress and sat at the small writing desk in her room. With trembling hands, she sorted through the documents: her father's unpaid medical bills from his long illness, the mortgage papers for their Boston home, the letters from creditors demanding payment. $2,000. The sum seemed even more impossible here in the vastness of Colorado than it had in Boston. How could she have imagined Adam would simply accept this burden she'd concealed? She was so absorbed in her troubled thoughts that she didn't hear Adam return until his boots sounded on the stairs. Hastily she gathered the papers, but not quickly enough. "Willow, what's wrong?" Adam stood in the doorway, concern etched on his features. "Nothing," she said automatically, trying to tuck the papers out of sight. Adam's gaze fell to the documents in her hands, then to her face, which she knew must betray her distress. "You're upset. Has something happened? A letter from home. Willow felt tears stinging her eyes. No, she took a deep breath. Adam, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you before I ever came here. He stepped into the room, his expression serious. Whatever it is, we can face it together. Please sit, she said, gesturing to the chair beside the desk. When he was seated, she forced herself to meet his eyes. My father died last year, as I told you in my letters. What I didn't tell you was that his illness left me with substantial debts. The creditors took our home, but that wasn't enough. They're still seeking payment. Adam's brow furrowed. How much do you owe? With shaking hands, Willow passed him the folder. Nearly $2,000. Adam whistled softly as he leafed through the papers. Medical bills, mostly. Willow nodded miserably. My father's heart was weak for years. The doctors tried everything, but nothing helped. Each new treatment, each specialist, cost more than the last. And the mortgage. My father borrowed against our home to pay for the treatments. After he died, I couldn't make the payments on what I earned as a seamstress. Tears began to slip down Willow's cheeks. I should have told you. I know that, but I was afraid. Afraid you wouldn't want me if you knew I came with such a burden. Adam was silent for a long moment, studying the papers. Finally, he looked up, his expression unreadable. When were you going to tell me? Tonight, Willow whispered. I swear it, Adam. I couldn't bear to build our marriage on a lie. He nodded slowly. Why not earlier? In your letters or yesterday when you arrived? I was a coward, she admitted, wiping away tears. At first I told myself it didn't matter that the creditors wouldn't find me in Colorado. But I knew that wasn't true. They're persistent, and sooner or later they would track me here. I couldn't bear the thought of bringing trouble to your door without warning. These men in Boston, Adam said, tapping the letters. They threatened you, not physically, Willow clarified. But they made it clear the debt wouldn't be forgiven. One suggested I should find a way to pay that didn't involve money. The memory of the leering creditor still made her skin crawl. Adam's jaw tightened. I see. I'll understand if you want me to leave, Willow said softly. Our agreement was based on my deception, and you have every right to know, Adam interrupted, his voice firm. That's not going to happen. But the debt is considerable, he acknowledged, but not insurmountable. Willow stared at him, hardly daring to hope. You're not angry. I'm disappointed you didn't trust me with the truth sooner, he said honestly. But angry? No, your father was ill. You did what you could for him. There's no shame in that. Fresh tears spilled down Willow's cheeks. You're a better man than I deserve, Adam Vaughn. That remains to be seen, he replied with a small smile. He gathered the papers and stood. I need to think about this, not about us, he added quickly, seeing her expression. That's settled as far as I'm concerned, but about how best to handle these creditors. You still want to marry me. Even knowing this, Adam's expression softened. Willow, I fell in love with your letters, with your mind, your heart, your spirit. Nothing in these papers changes that. He gestured with the folder. May I keep these for now? She nodded, hardly able to believe his reaction. Of course. I smell apple pie, he said, his tone lighter. Shall we have a slice while I tell you about the new calves in the north pasture? That evening passed in a blur for Willow. Despite his reassurances, she kept waiting for Adam to reconsider, to realize the magnitude of the debt she'd brought to his doorstep. But he spoke easily over dinner about ranch business, asked her opinion on improvements to the house, and praised her apple pie as the best he'd ever tasted. It was only as they sat on the porch after dinner, watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple, that he returned to the subject of her confession. I'll be riding into town tomorrow, he said. Need to speak with Mr. Hollister at the bank. Willow's heart sank. About the debts, among other things, Adam replied cryptically. I'd like you to come with me if you're willing. Of course, she said, though the thought of facing the banker while discussing her financial troubles made her stomach knot with anxiety. The next morning they set out early for Aurora, this time in a smarter buggy rather than the ranch wagon. Adam had dressed in his best clothes, a dark suit that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders, and a crisp white shirt that made his tan more pronounced. Willow wore her blue dress again, having no better alternative. "We should get you some new dresses while we're in town," Adam remarked as they drove. "That's hardly necessary," Willow protested. "My sewing skills are good enough to make what I need once I have materials." "Then we'll stop at the mercantile for fabric," he replied with a smile. "Choose whatever you like." Aurora looked different in the clear morning light, more substantial somehow, with people going about their business along the main street. Adam tethered the buggy outside a 2-story brick building that stood out among the wooden structures surrounding it. "First National Bank of Aurora," he explained, helping her down. "Founded by old man Hollister himself when this was just a mining camp. His son runs it now." The bank's interior was surprisingly elegant, with polished counters and a tiled floor. Adam nodded to the clerk and asked to see Mr. Hollister. They were shown to a private office at the back, where a portly man with mutton-chop whiskers rose to greet them. "Adam, good to see you, my boy. And this must be the young lady I've heard so much about." The banker extended his hand to Willow. "Pleased to meet you, Miss Langley. I'm Walter Hollister." "Thank you, sir," Willow replied, trying to hide her nervousness. "Walter, I need to make some arrangements," Adam said once they were seated. "Miss Langley has some outstanding debts in Boston that need to be settled." Willow felt her face flame with embarrassment, but Mr. Hollister merely nodded. "I see. And the amount?" "Just shy of $2,000, Adam replied. If the banker was shocked by the sum, he didn't show it. "I assume you'll want to wire the funds." "Yes, today if possible." Mr. Hollister reached for a ledger on his desk. "Let's see, the Vaughn account. Yes, we can certainly arrange that." "You'll need to provide the names and addresses of the creditors, of course." Willow stared at Adam, realization dawning. "Adam, no, you can't possibly." "I can and I will," he said firmly. "But it's my debt," she protested. "Soon enough we'll share everything," he reminded her. "Why not start with this?" "Because it's too much." "I never expected you to, Miss Langley," Mr. Hollister interrupted gently. "If I may say so, you're a fortunate young woman. Adam Vaughn is not only one of the most successful ranchers in the territory, but also one of the most honorable men I know. If he wishes to settle your debts, I suggest you allow him the privilege." Willow looked from the banker to Adam, whose blue eyes held nothing but warmth and determination. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll marry me on Saturday instead of waiting a month," Adam suggested, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "The Reverend can perform the ceremony and we'll have a proper celebration at the ranch afterward." "Saturday, but that's only 3 days away." "3 days too many as far as I'm concerned," Adam replied. "But I'm trying to be patient." Mr. Hollister chuckled. "I'll tell my wife to prepare for a wedding. She'll be delighted. She's been after me to introduce her to your fiancé since she heard the news." After providing the necessary information for the wire transfers, they left the bank and walked to the mercantile. Adam insisted on purchasing not only fabric for Willow to sew, but also 2 ready-made dresses that the storekeeper's wife produced from the back room. "For the wedding and after," Adam explained when Willow protested the extravagance. "You can make more when we're settled." By the time they headed back to the ranch, Willow's head was spinning. In the space of a morning, Adam had not only arranged to pay off her father's debts, but also accelerated their wedding plans and bought her a new wardrobe. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked, as the buggy rolled along the familiar road home. Adam was quiet for a moment, his hand steady on the reins. "When my brother died," he said finally, "I thought I'd lost my only family. The ranch kept me going, but it was a lonely life. Then your first letter came, answering my advertisement for a correspondence companion." He smiled at the memory. "Your words brought light back into my world, Willow. But the debts are just numbers on paper," he finished for her. "What matters is that you no longer have to carry that burden alone. We're starting a new life together." I wanted to begin without shadows from the past hanging over us. Tears pricked Willow's eyes. "I don't deserve such kindness." Adam reined the horses to a stop and turned to face her fully. "It's not about deserving, Willow. It's about loving. And I do love you, not just the woman in the letters, but the brave woman sitting beside me who had the courage to tell me the truth even when she was afraid." "I love you too," Willow whispered, the words coming easily now that she had no more secrets to hide. "I think I began falling in love with your letters long before I ever saw your face." Adam's hand came up to cup her cheek, and then he was kissing her gently at first, then with growing passion as she responded. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing quickly. "Saturday," Adam said, his voice husky. "Not a day later." "Saturday," Willow agreed, her heart too full for more words. The next 3 days passed in a whirlwind of activity. Alina and several women from neighboring ranches descended on Aspen Ridge to help prepare for the wedding. The house was cleaned from top to bottom. Flowers were gathered from the meadows and arranged in every available container. And food was prepared in quantities that seemed excessive to Willow, until she learned how many people Adam had invited. "The whole county's coming," Alina explained as they kneaded bread dough together. "Adam Vaughn getting married is big news. Everyone wants to meet the woman who captured the most eligible bachelor in the territory." Word came back via telegraph that the Boston creditors had received Adam's payments and considered the debts settled in full. When Adam showed Willow the receipt, she burst into tears of relief. "It's over," he said, holding her as she cried. "You're free of it, Willow." "Because of you," she said, looking up at him through damp lashes. "No," Adam corrected her. "We did it together. Your courage in telling me the truth, my ability to help, that's partnership. That's marriage." Saturday dawned clear and bright, with a crispness to the air that hinted at the autumn to come. Willow stood at her bedroom window, watching the sun rise over the mountains and marveling at how much her life had changed in just 1 week. Alina arrived early to help her dress and arrange her hair. The wedding dress Adam had purchased was simple but elegant cream-colored silk with lace at the collar and cuffs. Alina wove late-season wildflowers into Willow's chestnut curls and lent her a pair of pearl earrings, for something borrowed. "You are beautiful," the older woman declared when they were finished. "Adam will fall in love all over again when he sees you." By mid-morning, wagons and riders were arriving at the ranch. A large tent had been erected in the yard, with tables for the feast that would follow the ceremony. The guests gathered in the main room of the house, where the furniture had been moved aside to create space. Jose knocked on Willow's door when it was time. "Everyone is ready, Miss Langley." Taking a deep breath, Willow opened the door. Jose's eyes widened appreciatively. "Adam is a lucky man," he said, offering his arm. "May I have the honor of escorting you downstairs? In the absence of your father, I mean." Touched by the gesture, Willow placed her hand on his arm. "I would be honored, Mr. Mendoza." The Reverend Michaels waited at the foot of the stairs with Adam beside him. When Willow appeared, a hush fell over the assembled guests. Adam's face, when she met his gaze, held such love and pride that her last doubts melted away. The ceremony was brief but meaningful, with Willow and Adam exchanging vows in clear, steady voices. When the Reverend pronounced them husband and wife, Adam's kiss was both tender and possessive, drawing approving chuckles from the guests. What followed was unlike any celebration Willow had ever experienced, a boisterous, joyful gathering that spilled from the house to the yard and continued well into the evening. There was music from fiddles and guitars, dancing under the stars, and more food and drink than seemed possible. Through it all, Adam kept her close, introducing her to neighbors and friends with evident pride. "My wife," he would say, the words seeming to delight him each time. "Willow Vaughn." Later, much later, when the last guests had departed or bedded down in the bunkhouse or spare rooms, Adam led Willow up to the master bedroom, their bedroom now. On the dresser lay a small box tied with a blue ribbon. "One more gift," he said, placing it in her hands. Inside, Willow found a folded document. Opening it, she gasped. It was a deed to the ranch with both their names listed as owners. "Adam, this isn't necessary, it is to me," he said firmly. "Aspen Ridge isn't just my home anymore, it's ours. Everything I have is yours, Willow. And everything you brought with you, your strength, your courage, your heart, is the greatest gift I could have received." She looked up at him, this man who had changed her life in ways she was only beginning to understand. "I came west with nothing but debts and dreams," she whispered. "And now we start clean," Adam replied, drawing her into his arms. "Together." As his lips found hers in the moonlight streaming through the window, Willow knew she had found not just a husband but a true partner, a man whose generosity of spirit matched his strength, whose love had healed wounds she'd thought would never close. In the years that followed, the story of how Adam Vaughn had paid his bride's debts as a wedding gift became something of a legend in Aurora and the surrounding ranches. Some versions embellished the tale, making the debt larger or Adam's gesture more dramatic. But Willow and Adam knew the simple truth was powerful enough. Their first child, a son they named James after Adam's brother, was born the following summer. A daughter, Margaret, followed 2 years later, and then another son, Thomas. The house Adam had hoped to fill with family rang with children's laughter and the everyday sounds of a happy home. Willow used her sewing skills to establish a small business making wedding dresses and special occasion gowns for the women of Aurora and nearby towns. Her reputation for fine needlework spread, bringing customers from as far away as Denver. Adam's cattle operation prospered, and as he'd planned, they added sheep to the higher pastures. Together, they weathered the inevitable challenges of ranching life: droughts, harsh winters, fluctuating cattle prices. Through it all, their partnership remained strong, each challenge faced together. On their 10th anniversary, Adam surprised Willow with a journey to Boston, where they visited her father's grave and the few friends she had maintained correspondence with over the years. The city seemed smaller somehow, more confined than she remembered. "You ever regret leaving?" Adam asked as they walked through the public garden. Willow shook her head. "Never. Boston was my past. You and Aspen Ridge are my future." She squeezed his hand. "Besides, we've built something beautiful together, something my father would have been proud of." "He would have been prouder of you," Adam replied. "The woman who had the courage to start over, to trust a stranger, to build a new life from the ashes of the old." As they stood looking out over the garden, Willow thought of that day on the stagecoach, arriving in Aurora with nothing but hope and fear intermingled. How different her life might have been if Adam had been a different sort of man, less understanding, less generous of spirit. "What are you thinking?" Adam asked, noticing her pensive expression. "I'm thinking about debts," she replied honestly. "Not the kind that can be paid with money, but the kind that can only be repaid with a lifetime of love." Adam's arm tightened around her waist. "In that case, Mrs. Vaughn, I believe we're even." That night, in their hotel room overlooking the city of her birth, Willow and Adam renewed their vows to each other in the most intimate way possible. And as they lay together afterward, her head on his chest and his arms around her, Willow knew with absolute certainty that sometimes the greatest journeys begin with a single step of faith, and sometimes the richest lives are built from the ashes of what was lost. When they returned to Colorado, the mountains welcomed them home, rising majestic against the vast blue sky. Aspen Ridge, with its sturdy house and fertile valley, its cattle and sheep and growing orchards, represented everything they had built together. But as Adam never tired of reminding her, it was their family, the children, who ran to meet them as the wagon approached, the love they shared, the trust they had cultivated, that was their true legacy. "We started clean," he would say, echoing his words from their wedding night. "And look what we've created." And Willow, looking at the life they had built from nothing, could only agree. They had started clean, leaving behind the burdens of the past, and found riches beyond any monetary value, the treasure of a life well lived, of love freely given, of a partnership that had withstood every test. The debts of the past had been paid in full. And the future, stretching before them like the boundless Colorado sky, promised only more of the joy they had found together at Aspen Ridge Ranch.